Hey everyone, we're back to our studio in IDC, broadcasting live here in Herzaliya. We have a really exciting show for you guys tonight, thanks to Midabrim Communications and through Israelunderfire. I'm Josh Wesfield, and we also have my co-host.
Hi, I am Daniel Campos.
Hi, I'm Michal Divon. So as we said, we're on the 8th day of Operation Pillar of Defense. We're here at the IDC radio. We have online David Keyes, who is a human rights analyst. He's the executive director of Advancing Human Rights, written for the Wall Street Journal, Newsweek.
And he goes on very difficult interviews on Al Jazeera and other news
He's been on
networks.
Washington Post, so we have a great opportunity to speak with him about human rights. Hi, David. Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Loud and clear.
Thank you for being here with us. I understand you have been following closely the whole Human Rights Watch of Hamas the past few years. Maybe you can tell us a little bit what exactly their human rights record is at this moment.
Sure. Well, Hamas was founded in the late 80s, and it came to power in Gaza in 2007, as most people know. Hamas has a pretty terrible human rights record on every facet of human rights, whether it's women's rights, respect for free speech, whether it's their treatment of dissidents, whether it's their treatment of bloggers and social media. I published a piece in Foreign Policy magazine just 2 days ago about Hamas's incitement to genocide, which is one of the aspects that's not looked at very often, but I think is one of the most important. You have senior Hamas leaders like Ahmed Bahar, who is deputy speaker of the parliament in Gaza, who has called repeatedly for genocide, not just of all Jews, but of all Americans as well. And so part of what we're doing is holding Hamas's feet to the fire and raising the profile of those who incite to genocide, which of course is a crime in international law, and it's a crime, it's a moral crime, of course, as well.
Now, you've had some interviews on Al Jazeera. How do you see the Arab world reacting to the Human Rights Watch?
Well, the Arab world's reaction to Gaza is varied, as you'd expect. There are some people who see it as a thorn in the side of the West, a thorn in the side of America and Israel. Some people share their goal of the destruction of Israel and the imposition of dictatorship, but you also find people who, of course, see Hamas for what it is, and there are some liberals and dissidents and Democrats who understand that life under Hamas is a life of tyranny and a life of human rights abuse and violations, and don't want that. And so I think the West needs to bring strong pressure on these dictatorships which deny their people freedom of speech and freedom of association and freedom of religion, and stand strongly behind the dissidents in Gaza and throughout the Arab world who hope to see a more peaceful future.
Can you talk about the problems with freedom of speech and expression that are occurring today in Gaza?
Sure. Well, we saw
Some
pictures a day or two of people being dragged through the streets for being suspected collaborators. And this is the vaunted Hamas judicial system with no checks and balances, really, with no rule of law. And a lot has been written about this in the human rights community. When it comes to freedom of speech, Hamas has a pretty terrible record. What they are doing is repressing free speech while advocating genocide. So when you look at people they've arrested, they've shut down liberal forums for teaching music and dance. They've shut down social media conferences. They've confiscated video cameras of bloggers and dissidents and opposition figures.
Wait, you used the word genocide there. When would this case would be? When does it get to a genocide? Or is it?
Well, hopefully never. But incitement to genocide is a crime under the Genocide Convention. So to call for the mass destruction, mass death of another people is in fact a crime under international law. And we've done some work publishing in the Wall Street Journal calling for the Iranian president to be tried for incitement to genocide. And one of our board members, Erwin Kotler, who was Justice Minister of Canada, has been taking the lead on this. When it comes to Hamas, I mean, I can just give you a few quotes, but perhaps most foremost in my mind is a quote by the man I mentioned previously, Ahmed Bahar, Deputy Speaker of the Hamas Parliament.
Right.
And he stood up both in 2007 and a few months ago, and several times in between, and said in Arabic, "Uqtul al-Yahud badada wa la tughadar minhum ahada." Kill the Jews down to the very last one. He said this of all Americans too. So that's pretty clear incitement to genocide.
Okay, and is the UN dealing with this, like the ICC, the International Criminal Court, or Responsibility to Protect, or any of these organizations?
No, they're not, and some have legal justifications because Gaza is not technically a state, or it's not a party to certain international conventions or treaties. But on the moral level, it should be abundantly clear that teaching children to incitement to genocide is profoundly dangerous. If you want to see an interesting video, go on and you know, Memory is one organization which translates for those who don't speak Arabic, and you can see the brothers of and children of Hamas members saying, you know, we yearn for death as Jewish dogs love life, and that of course is a profoundly dangerous situation when children are being taught to lust for death. And I hope the international community takes this issue a lot more seriously than they have.
Can you tell us a little bit, how do you think we should use the images that were posted yesterday online of the execution of these 6 innocent men who were accused of spying for Israel, who were executed without a fair trial and who were dragged down the streets of Gaza? It was a complete circus, you know, for showing bodies of people being dragged through the streets when you have children and families out on the streets as well. Do you think these images might help influence world opinion about the rule of terror of Hamas in the Gaza Strip? I mean, Anderson Cooper was one of the main journalists who was there and witnessed it with his own eyes, and he was in shock.
I think any straight talk and honest assessment about Hamas, whether it's using pictures, video, or what they write, will lead people to the same conclusion that I've gotten to, which is that this organization is a menace to peace for its own citizens and for its neighbors. And there's a principle of Natan Sharansky, whom I used to work for, and Andrei Sakharov, the great Soviet dissident, that we should trust governments as much as they trust their own people. And when you look at this kind of vigilante justice that's run rampant in Gaza, when you look at the way they treat their opposition members, the way they treat advocates of free speech, and you see the kind of daily horrors and abuse that happen to Palestinians at the hands of Hamas, it's hard to take seriously calls for peace with such an organization. As I wrote in Foreign Policy this week, how is it that Hamas can be trusted to make peace when its neighbors, when it's effectively at war with its own citizens? So I hope that these pictures are seen far and wide because it reveals the true nature of this organization.
Right now, what's their future like?
Not to mention they've been elected. How would you explain, how could you comment on this?
Well, elections can bring bad people to power. We know that in the 1930s with the election of Adolf Hitler to power. He got some 33 million votes. 17 million votes in 1933. So we know that bad people can be elected to power. That doesn't absolve them of their crimes. It only makes it more important that the world responds as it should. So the future of Hamas is, I think, dependent in large part based on how the West reacts to it, how average Americans and Europeans and Israelis and Canadians and Australians and anyone else throughout the world who cares about open societies, freedom of speech, democracy, and human rights, everything needs to be done to support the moderates, liberals, dissidents, and Democrats in places like Gaza so that the voices of moderation can win out over the voices of extremism and hate speech, incitement to genocide, and rampant human rights violations.
Okay.
David Keyes, thank you very much. Thank you for this insight.
Thank you very much.
It's been very interesting. You're doing a very important job, and we hope to keep hearing about, you know, the development in the whole Human Rights Watch.
Okay. Stay safe.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Bye. Okay. Wow, that was very interesting.
Bianca.
What do you guys think about that?
Well, now, I mean, I think it's very important, you know, that the Israelunderfire is taken, you know, in his own hands, the distribution of material, you know, about the violations of human rights by Hamas. So, I mean, just as we mentioned, the executions, the summary executions of people accused of spying for Israel without a fair trial. And in Israelunderfire, these images have also been distributed to show the world what it is to live under Hamas.
I think it's unbelievable. You know, there's Human Rights Watch. They're getting coverage on Al Jazeera, on these main, you know, the biggest news agencies in the world, and yet eyes don't usually point at this specific matter. Somehow, it's always Israel who's portrayed as a human rights violator.
Right now we have here Bianca Sitzer. She is the president of the RRIS, International Aguda Studentim, Student Union at IDC. And she's also one of the main leaders in the campaign inside of Israel Under Fire, not only in English, but also in Spanish. Bianca, how are you doing?
Hi, good night.
Thank you very much for coming.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting us.
Well, go ahead and introduce us a little bit. How have these last days been for you?
Well, it's been very hectic. We've had around 600 volunteers rotating all the time. We've reached around 8 million people and 34 countries. We're in constant contact with different organizations around the world. It started out as a student initiative. We were thinking on how to help students at IDC, what was missing, and how to help Israel in this situation that we have been placed into. And we came up with the idea of explaining what was going on, because especially for international students, they don't quite understand what's happening. So from that, Yarden Ben Yosef, who is in charge of student initiatives, and he came up with this, we decided to ask the Ministry of Asbara, of Advocacy, and the Zettel and many other people if they needed our help and if we could help. We figured that having people from 77 countries, which means a lot of languages, then maybe we could stretch the word and send out a better image of what Israel is to people around the world, given that sometimes the Ministry of Asbara only addresses in a formal way, and sometimes they don't receive their information as necessarily true, but more as propaganda.
And what's your job exactly in the control center? Like, what are you doing out there?
Right now, we're working very hard on launching. It's actually launched already. It's been launched for around 24 hours. We have launched a Spanish page for the Israel Under Fire. It's called Israel Bajo Ataque. Okay. And the idea is that in it we have more information, more articles, more explanatory written information and videos and pictures, so that people abroad and people in South America and in Spain tend to be very literary and very interested and very liberal. They're very into letters and words. So usually what we do is that we write it down, and once it's written down, they can look into it and have more information on this side of the story.
And how do you find the response? Do you find a response from around the world? You know, this is something that in the previous war that we had was missing. People felt like our message wasn't being spread. Are you feeling like people are actually hearing the message now that it's being translated?
So it's been very interesting, because we've translated into around 17 languages, and the reaction in every country is different. For example, in South America, in the north of South America, we've gotten very interesting responses. Many people who suddenly believe that Israel is not that wrong, or that maybe Israel does have a legitimate reason to attack. And then on the other hand, we have people from Spain that when you send this out to them, they just keep saying like, yeah, but you deserve it. Like, Israel was attacked today in the middle of Tel Aviv, a bus exploded. Yeah, but you deserve it. You suck. So it's very interesting to see the reactions of the different regions and the biases. So
interesting. Now, the students themselves, you know, these students are living here on exchange or temporarily. This is the first time that students themselves are placed in this reality. How do you feel, you know, the mood? How do you feel people are on an individual basis and reacting?
The impact this will have on their lives as well.
Absolutely. The psychological impact.
Well, I think it depends on the background. Many students have a very Zionist background, and that's why they came here to this Zionist university that we have, IDC. Okay, so never mind. But then we have people who haven't studied what Israel is and don't have a background in Zionism, and for them everything is new. So
not everyone is Jewish.
Not everyone is Jewish, that's correct. So it's very interesting. I think that every time something happens, every time something new happens or they hear something, they panic a little bit at the beginning, but once they understand what's going on, and that's the beauty of this work that we're doing at the advocacy room, once you understand the background and what's going on and that everything's fine and that life continues and classes go on and still the government in Israel works very hard to protect its civilians, then they calm down and they start to understand the values of Israel, which I think it's very interesting because you might hear about it or read from like what it is to be Israeli and what it is to live in Israel. But right now that they see that they're putting so much money, time, effort, and everything in civilian defense, then it's a different issue because you know that a missile is falling and somehow you still feel quite safe to be here. I can definitely say that I feel safer to be here than in Venezuela.
And do you feel that people are reacting differently having the news coming from non-Israelis, from non-Jews? How is this affecting the message?
So I think that the fact that people do it in their own language is already a very big impact because you have someone that understands your culture, understands your vocabulary, telling you what their experience is. Right now we're working on personal testimonies, people in the South, people in Tel Aviv, like what you feel. And people respond very well to that. On the other hand, we have a lot of people who aren't Jewish. We have some Arab students as well that are sitting here and are explaining to the world in Arabic what's going on in Israel and what are the reactions that we're having. So I think people receive it better when it's not from an Israeli, when it's not from an international student that is Jewish.
And can you comment on the Arab students? How are the Arab students feeling? How are they, relating to this whole situation? They must feel torn.
It's been, I know personally a lot of people that have that division in their ideals. Because they love the country that they live in, they are part of this country, and they feel Israeli, but at the same time, they're part of the Arab people and the Palestinian nation. So it can't be easy, and honestly, I try not to get too into it because I know it's a very sensitive subject. But the fact that they show up and they help us out in the advocacy room, I think, speaks for itself.
That's incredible.
Have you received any sort of hate messages from people,
in IDC?
Yeah.
On the site, on the Israelunderfire site.
On the Israelunderfire, we had a lot of comments at the beginning. We had to block it for a little while because we had a lot of spam, we could say. People writing like just images, just commenting random images, and people just writing like curse words. It was very useless information. If anyone commented something that was interesting for people to read and someone could talk back, then that would be interesting. But at the beginning, the hate messages that we got were very plain. So we blocked that for a while. And in general, definitely, we've got the people from Spain are having a hard time. They're in talkbacks all day, every day, and the general public opinion isn't great.
24/7? How is the advocacy room working?
So we open at 9 a.m. Usually, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. till it's running everyone, and then we close around 11. Yesterday we passed the 11 at night.
Wow, so it's really almost 24/7.
Almost. And then people I know go home. I do it, and I know other people do it, go home and they keep doing it from their homes, which is incredible. Also, we have, like, for example, people who have different time zones. So, for example, in Venezuela, there's 5 people in charge of running the Spanish page and running the general talkbacks at night when we sleep, and then a day when they sleep, like a day here when they sleep, we're running it, and then we have it in different parts of the world. So that's interesting. There's always someone on the page.
Wow, what a sacrifice, We have people staying up till midnight, till dawn,
Helping our husband.
sending out the real message. It's really incredible.
Well, not only that, I mean, the foreign ministry, everyone is pretty much paid tribute to this operation room. So clearly this was a need that is being fulfilled, something that we were lacking.
I think definitely. Today I was asked in the cafeteria, there was a group that came to visit campus and they wanted to help, and one of them asked me, what exactly are we doing? Because we say that we're fighting another front. Like, you have the soldiers that go there and fight, and then you have this Asbara project that's going around all over Israel, that we get together and we fight on the media. And the truth is that public opinion matters. Public opinion matters to everyone. It matters to you as an Israeli when you fly abroad and someone gets to know you and they say, where are you from? And you say, I'm Israeli. It matters to the people here, and it matters to the government decisions, the international influence. And the truth is that when people start hearing another narrative and another point of view, then the way they deal with Israelis and Jewish people is different.
It's true. They say that half the war is, the people fighting against each other, and the other half is the social media. Okay, Bianca, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and
Bye.
keep up the good work.
You're doing such amazing work.
Bye.
Now, talking about social media, we right now have the... Oh, actually, before we go to the social media part, we're gonna...
Yeah, we have a clip. We have a clip right now to show you guys from Kiryat Malachi, which is one of the small cities in the south near Sderot. A few days ago, there was a rocket that actually hit straight onto a house there. So we're going to show you guys a clip of that.
Kiryat Malachi Thursday morning, when a wave of rockets slammed into an apartment building. The fatalities came on the second day of IDF Operation Pillar of Defense in Gaza.
There was a rocket strike this morning, in a wave of rockets that came in. Unfortunately, the apartment behind us, where we're standing at the moment, took a direct hit. The two apartments on the top floor of a 4-story building. There were 2 men in one apartment and a woman in another apartment, and unfortunately all of them were killed after not having enough time and going into a safety zone, a safety area.
The 2 top-floor apartments sustained significant damage, with bloodstains on the walls and floors of the bedrooms and living rooms hit, all on the southern side of the building.
העובדה שהם מצאו את מותם ממש בחלק הדרומי של הבית היא מחייבת אותי לבוא פעם נוספת ולקרוא לכל מי ששומע סירנה. אל תקלו ראש, לכו למקום הכי מוגן שיש. אם זה חדר המדרגות, ואם אתם לא יוצאים מחדר המדרגות, בתוך הבית. לו זה היה קורה בדירה הזו, או בשתי הדירות, היינו היום יכולים לראיין את האנשים. אם לא פה באופן מלא, אז במקרה הכי גרוע אולי כפצועים קל בבתי חולים.
The deputy mayor of Kiryat Malachi, Yossi Solimani, who is going to be explaining us about the current situation. People are going in Kiryat Malachi. Let's remember, people are in a state of shock
Yossi.
after 3 deaths were
Hello, Yossi?
of innocent civilians happened in Kiryat Malachi.
Yossi, can you hear us? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, Yossi, can you hear us?
I'm sorry, I don't hear you.
Yossi, could you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. How are you doing, Yossi?
Well, this is not an easy time for us, but I hope we will survive.
Yossi, can you tell us a little bit about, this past week, how the people of Kiryat Malachi are reacting? What are you experiencing? Tell us, the people in Tel Aviv who are experiencing a bit of a different reality, what it's like in Kiryat Malachi right now.
Well, in Kiryat Malachi, this is the first time that we are having this kind of rocket attack. Actually, most of the time we used to see it on TV, and it never felt like something real that we felt it. But now, after we had those 3 guys that were killed last week at the rocket attack, it feels much more scary, and everybody is very, very much worried. So this is not so nice for the citizens.
Yossi, now that after this event happened, are people going into the shelters? Are people being more cautious?
Well, actually, streets are usually empty because most of the day, the rockets are above us, not only the rings that we hear all the time, but also the rockets are falling down. Most of the time at the Moshavim,
And how is this?
in Bertuvia, in Timurim, and so on, and that's why people are not going out from their houses.
Right. So do you see psychological damage happening to the citizens? We see that they're scared. Is there something you guys are doing about that to help them? Maybe therapists, or how is that working?
Of course, people are very scary, and we, as a municipality, We asked all our social workers and psychologists to go out and get all those guys, especially children that are very scared, to take care of them, to speak with them, and try to help them, because it's really scary. This is a very, very hard experience for all of us, especially for the children.
As the deputy mayor of Kiryat Malachi, what would you like to tell people outside of Israel? What would your message be?
Well, this is our choice to live in Israel. We love our country, and we feel that we have to fight for this country, even after 64 years. But me personally, I think that we should speak with the Palestinians and have a real peace process, because this will be the solution. There can't be another solution, especially not a military solution. So I hope that this fire breaks that we're talking about those hours now will really succeed, and we will not have, like Menachem Begin always said, no more war and no more bloodshed, because this is enough. This is enough for us. This is enough for the Palestinians. We, the citizens of Kiryat Malachi, citizens of Israel, we want to live in peace. We want to grow our children like every child all over the world. And this is the only thing that we were hoping for. And I hope that this will be the last roll of violence, and we'll never know this horrible experience again.
And what do you think is necessary for the people of Kiryat Malachi to feel safe?
Kiryat Malachi is a real nice place where we don't like to be attacked, and we need peace, and we need that our businesses and shops and everything will live real life, and not to be under attack all the time.
Okay. Well, yeah, we all agree here, and we hope to see an ending to the rockets as soon as possible.
Very soon.
Thank you very much for being here with us.
We wish safety to all Kiryat Malachi. We wish safety all the way from Herzaliya.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night. Bye. Okay, great words from Yossi out in Kiryat Malachi, the deputy mayor. That's it for today's show. Again, I'd like to thank Midabrim Communications, IDC Studio, for letting us use their facilities here today. I'd like to thank my amazing co-hosts, Michal and Daniella, and everyone have a great night, and may we see an end to this conflict as soon as possible.
Amen.
Have a good night.
Good night.